Hi, and welcome back. I'm Mike Quincy.
I'm John Lincove.
I'm Gabe Schenauer.
So the buzz in the automotive world continues to be electric vehicles. And luckily, we have one in store for today's podcast. It is the 2022 Audi Q450 E-Tron Quattro, which gets a special prize for a really long name. We equipped our test model with the Premium Plus package, which includes a few nice items like adaptive cruise control, heated steering wheel, and a wireless charging pad. The Q4 comes standard with forward collision warning and automatic emergency braking with a few other odds and ends. Our car came to $60,580. Not exactly inexpensive, but still, it's something new, and it's electric. And speaking of electric, John Lincove, what are your first impressions of this super electric car?
It's a fine progression, I think, as Audi moves down. I mean, it shares the platform with the Volkswagen ID4. They're small. EV. Look, it looks kind of like a Q5, Q3 morph with a big flat nose because they don't need to have a radiator. Size-wise, it's Q5-ish. Mm-hmm. I think that maybe a slight compromise in the cargo area just because of battery pack and associated elements. For most people, it's a pleasant vehicle. Mm-hmm. I didn't find it super engaging. I didn't find it off-putting. It's got a lot of. I think the key thing is really that Audi went normal with it. Mm-hmm. Their vehicles have not been totally off the wall, different looks. They keep the same interior, basically, slight evolutions with their MMI touchscreen system and such. Everything falls to hand that you're used to. If you've had an Audi, you're going to fall into this and be pretty comfortable, mm-hmm. unless your last Audi was from 1983. The range will be, and I know, I'm going to let Gabe get into that, but range will be an issue, I think, with people in their mind. Mm-hmm. Maybe not driving. I mean, I drove it around and a whole day driving through Connecticut, came back with double-digit range, 75 miles or something like that. But I have a charger at home and it wasn't an issue. Right. If you don't have a charger at home, range could play into it, particularly in the winter time, as we saw, right, Gabe?
Which is sort of true for almost any electric vehicle. Right. And this is actually our second Audi EV. We tested the rather elegant e-tron a few years ago. You think John is on the money with how the Q4 is kind of a normal car than some of the others?
Right on the money. Yeah. Anyone who knows anything about Audis will be pleased to just jump right in. Be familiar with the infotainment system, with the controls, with everything. The car looks like a normal Audi. I mean, it's not going to be a conversation starter like a Kia EV6 or Genesis GV60. No one's going to ask you, wow, oh my God, what's that? And, because it looks like an Audi. It even has a grille, even though it doesn't need a grille. It has like a kind of a fake grille in the front. And it's everything else is normal about it. And I don't mean to say it in a derogatory way, in a positive way. I mean, it actually has door handles. It actually has a rear wiper. Right. I mean, thank God for that. Yeah. So, yeah. About the range, I mean, it has an EPA estimated range of 241 miles, which is, it's in the hunt. It's where most EVs these days in this price range kind of converge around 250 miles. So between 240 and 270 is normal. And knowing Audi, from our experience with the last e-tron, they tend to be a little conservative with the range. So you might see a little better range.
But just to put it in context, when you say it actually has door handles, that's referring to some EVs where you walk up and you're not sure how to get in the car unless the door handles present themselves, correct?
Or you have to unlock first and then touch something and then they come out. So there are some really awkward and unintuitive door handles out there.
Right, but not with the Q4. Right. I think what's interesting is again, we're talking about how it's just sort of a normal car, but there are some issues with some of the controls. Looking at the electronic logbook, a lot of people mentioned that the button for the to park the car is like really small and it not always comes to hand.
Yeah, I think it in a sense. I mean, not apologizing, but it's one of the small things. It is certainly almost hidden. I mean, because the gear selector now is a sliding lever. It's not even a lever like this. It's more of a sliding button, something where you would put it in drive, you would put it in battery mode, or there's a small button up front. But you can basically turn the car off and it'll go to park. I mean, you could really be kind of silly and just open the door and get out and it'll go to park. I mean, and I've done that with some EVs by accident. Like go get the mail and just you open the door. So it's a small thing. Right. Yes, it's awkward to find. I think the bigger we'll go back to the button for a second, but the bigger thing may be that the manual controls for the radio, the volume and shuffling is far forward, almost for the passenger.
That little circular dial,
yeah, it's a little circular
which
thing.
I never use, by the way, and all the Audis. I'm always using the steering wheel
button.
It's an odd thing to have. Right. It's a vestigial part. Well, we used to have a knob. We got to have a volume control, so we'll stick it here because the steering wheel controls are there. Would it be nice just to have a knob to just turn through? Certainly. But at least the steering wheel controls are easy to use. They're not hidden. They're not, somewhere awkward. Right. I think the big thing that I found with the E-Tron is that the first one didn't really have a regenerative mode that you could get into. If you get into BMW iX, for example, you get into the Kia and the Hyundai models, you can really toggle on to a very strong regenerative mode that gets you into the one pedal driving. And one pedal driving is basically you're using the throttle, accelerator, whatever we want. Right. Again, we have a gas pedal.
The gas pedal, even though there's no
so you lift, you're using that to lift off and let regen slow you down. First E-Tron really didn't have anything that was strong. This one has 3 different modes where you can choose with the paddles, but you can't keep that on fully unless you go into dynamic mode.
That's wonderful.
Yes,
because I don't want to be committed to one pedal driving. I want to do it on the fly. So I really like the fact that I have a paddle by a steering wheel, which gives me this ability of when the opportunity presents itself, particularly when I'm alone in the car, because any regen braking makes my passenger queasy. And so I like to do it on the fly, on demand, and have total control of it rather than go into some kind of a setting in a screen and while I'm driving, which is definitely really not the move. And that gives you kind of for those who don't know regen braking, it gives you a sensation of engine braking, as if you're like downshifting a manual car and descending a hill. So I actually like that. There are a couple of other EV specific things about the Q4 that I also appreciate. You open the door and immediately you see the state of charge and the remaining range, which is really handy. And also kudos to Audi for providing a home charging kit with a plug that's compatible with the NEMA 1450. So that means that that plug is very similar to a range or a clothes dryer kind of an outlet. And if you get that, if you just have that installed in your garage, you can eliminate the need to get a home charger. Right. And you just charge at 240 volts.
$700 savings.
And by the way, Ford does that as well. Ford gives you that kind of ability in the Mach-E and in the Lightning as well.
So, but Gabe, speaking of charging, I noticed in the electronic logbook a classic Gabe line. He said, "Releasing the coupler from the charge port always requires pressing the unlock button, even if the car's unlocked. Whoever decided that is an idiot. It's so annoying." Can you explain a little bit more about what that means?
Yeah, so just like the VW ID4, every time you want to release the coupler from the charge port, you have to actually press the unlock button on the key fob. And that is such screwed up logic because that should be tied into the central locking system. I get it. Okay, you don't want some stranger to walk up and unplug your car, of course. That goes without saying. But if the car is locked, you can't do that. So if the car is unlocked, what if you just like on your driveway, you want to unplug the car, you're ready to go. What if the key is not in your pocket? What if the key is in the cup holder, for instance? So you just that's just such a pain in the neck. It's who decided that? I want to know.
Yeah, it is. It's a thing. I use one of the EV chargers that we evaluated, we didn't test the juice box. So I got one of those and put that in. So you could, unlike any charger, you could look at the app So I set the app to charge overnight. Not that I get a better rate, but I just wanted to do it and see how long it took overnight. So I set it at like 1 o'clock. It was ready by 7 a.m. I went to unplug it because just the way the garage is set up, I didn't want the cord out there. And it was that type of thing. The keys inside, the walk out, the go back, it is one of those things where everyone else does it without,
right.
And it's fine. I haven't heard of, like you said, rampant, unpluggings going on around the world inside of people's homes.
Yeah. So it's not as easy as like siphoning gas or something.
And you would lock it if you parked outside.
Right. So what I like about the discussion is really showing people that we live with these cars day to day. We see the nuances, we see the things that surprise and delight, and then we also see the total annoyances. But one of the things that almost everyone wants to know when it comes to EVs is like the kind of range. Is this competitive? Is it competitive with some of the models that we talked about in our pre-production meeting? It's based on the ID4, but it competes with the Genesis GV60, the Model Y, the Mach-E. So do you think it's 241 miles is, as you said, it was kind of in the hunt, but is that good enough?
I'd be happier if it were more like closer to 300 miles. It has an 82 kilowatt hour battery, and it's like the ID4, and the car is heavy. The ID4 itself is 500 pounds heavier than the Tesla Model Y. It shows in the car. It's a very solid car. It's really quiet. Even by EV standards, it is a very quiet car. It's one of the things that it feels like an Audi. It feels fit and finish, the seat comfort and all of that. So 240, to your point, is if you've lived with EVs, if you understand charging them, and if you know your distances you drive, it should be fine, barring a long trip. I put some 300 miles on it in 2 days, and I only charged it. I only DC fast charged it on the way back here because just to get some experience with a DC fast charging. So I took it to New York City. I parked it on the street. I didn't even think twice of just parking it on the street and not charging it and coming back home at night. No problem at all. Wasn't worried for a second. And then on the way back here, I arrived at an Electrify America place and plugged it in with 19%. Stayed there for half an hour, gained 150 miles, and galloped back to the track.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a key, is knowing, like anything, it's knowing what your lifestyle is and what you need it for. It'll be the same as complaining that a Corvette can't carry 4 people, or complaining that my pickup truck can't fit in a tight parking space. Well, it's not designed for some of those things. Right. EV right now is not for someone who drives routinely to Florida in December, and then comes back in February or March or April, like that. Like, that's just not where it is right now.
It's not like unless you can't do it.
It's not that you can't, but
do it if you know.
It adds in a lot.
Exactly. If you know coming in what you're going to be faced with, you know that you're going to have to plan how long to stop for and where to stop, and you have to have the time. You're not going to make time. If I want to be in, get up in the morning and be at dinner time in Columbus, Ohio, it's not going to happen.
Right. And that shouldn't be used, I think, as a reason that a lot of detractors have for it. Like, well, it can't do this today. Well, the early cars couldn't go as far as a horse. Right. We did not develop automobiles. And that's it can't do that. There's vehicles that are great. Hybrids will do that for you, and it'll still give you great mileage, and it'll still save you a ton of money. Some point there will be EVs that will do that within the next few years, 5, 10, whatever it will be. The biggest thing is, like any EV with the Q4. Look, you get into traffic, you get into fast moving traffic like the Merritt Parkway
in Connecticut.
In Connecticut, you're going 80 miles an hour and you're using the battery up. You're not going to be an impediment. You're an impediment if you get into the right lane even and try to drive modestly or moderately, try to, drive like an EV to help the battery. So that's probably the toughest thing.
Let me build up on that point a little bit more, because a lot of people think, oh, what if I'm stuck in traffic and stop and go? And
good.
And that's great. Because EVs don't care about that. EVs actually are more efficient Whereas they're not as efficient when you're driving 75, 80 miles an hour on the highway. That's when you're going to see the range deplete at a faster rate than just driving in an urban/suburban kind of environment.
I mean, Gabe will know, the lower Fairfield County on I-95. Between Westport and Stanford, I actually gained range because of how slow the traffic was. And
it's mostly a parking lot.
It was, you're just slowly going along, and I was in the highest regen mode, and I gained range over 5 or 7 miles, which was great. So yes, it's not going to help you for the whole day, but you actually didn't lose anything. And that was running AC. That was running, it's not as if, I put the car into some kind of special mode just to, we all were uncomfortable just to get that range. Like, no, we just went along the way.
So living with an EV, charging, just day-to-day stuff. That's what we know about the Q4 so far. Sweet Johnny Links is going to have our first drive of this really slick new Audi EV. So check out consumerreports.org. And that leads us to our audience question. We love your questions. Text short videos. Send them all to talkingcars@icloud.com. That's talkingcars@icloud.com. Question for today comes from Sam. And Sam writes, I've been seeing videos on the news of multiple Teslas catching fire in Florida after Hurricane Ian. Apparently, 4 Teslas caught fire in Fort Myers in one day, with firefighters putting them out with foam only for them to catch fire again. Supposedly, they continue to catch fire until the battery is fully discharged. Could this be from the corrosion of the metal from salt water, causing uncontrolled discharge? Also, wouldn't this be a problem for all electric cars, not just Teslas? At the end of the day, is it dangerous to own an electric car in a flood-prone area? So a very timely question. And we're going to first turn to John Linkov, who has really looked into how do you deal with your car or any car if it might have been in a flood.
So to look at it, is it dangerous to own an EV in a flood-prone area? Not if you take precautions to move it out of the area. If you raise it or something. I mean, if you lift it up. Can anything become damaged in a flood and then lead to issues that we're not aware of? I mean, the vehicles talked about, we don't know what went on with those. If they were banged around or not. But the key thing really to think about an EV with like any vehicle, and from talking to manufacturers and talking internally, is that you really don't want to even begin to get into charging, driving, operating an EV, just like you wouldn't want to do that with a gasoline powered vehicle or a diesel powered vehicle. You don't know how it's been compromised. You don't know how the electrics have been compromised. And I'm not talking the battery. I'm just talking about the basic electronics for the windows, the radio, I mean, anything. Mm-hmm. And I said radio, not radiator. I know it sounded like that. That's really the key thing. You don't know what else has been ruined. And all the insurance companies that we've spoken with for the article said, yes, don't drive the car. Don't plug them in. Don't do anything with them. Just make a claim.
Right.
It's safer overall. That's the key real takeaway is all the manufacturers talk about how their batteries are sealed and tested for water immersion and tested for cold and tested for heat. But there could be some kind of perforation or something that no one knows about, which could lead to something else in a dry situation, when it's perfectly dry, let alone if there's floods.
Right. So, I mean, car ownership in a flood prone area, really, it doesn't have anything to do with whether it's an EV or not. It's still, these are machines that were never designed for this kind of natural disaster.
Regardless, any car, you don't want to, depending on the depth of the water, you don't want to expose it to salt water at all. It's definitely an undesirable kind of thing. It'll cause damage, and in a lot of cases, when a waterlogged car will become total loss in terms of an insurance company.
I mean, and this also brings up the fact that a lot of these cars that are underwater can be taken to a different state where they can kind of be cleaned up. They call it washing the title, and you may be an unsuspecting buyer of this car, but there's actually a few things that almost anyone can do if they're thinking about buying a car that might have been in a flood. I mean, you might be able to smell some mustiness in the carpeting of a car. You might be able to see traces of dirt or silt in the lower parts of the trunk, things like that. I mean, a lot of people say, well, I can't inspect a car. I don't know if it's been in a flood, but actually you're really probably better at it than you think you are.
Yeah, I mean, so we have stuff on consumerreports.org. We have the story about if your car's total, but also just what to look for. Some of the stuff is headlights. If there's a water line in the headlights, if there's an odd water line in what would be the firewall. So, a firewall for a vehicle, for gas, for internal combustion engine vehicle, the spot at the back of the engine bay in front between the passenger cockpit. With an EV, there's so much plastic and so many things covering because there's not that engine up front. Might be a little more difficult, but look for weird water lines. One of the things you could look at in an EV, just like a regular car, if the rails for the seats, so if the screws are either new or marked up or rusty, that's an issue. Why would a car that's perfectly fine with 20,000 miles have all new screws, on seat rails and stuff like that? Little things like that. But, sniff test is really a good one, for mustiness. If it looks weird, why there's new carpets in a car all of a sudden with low miles, just walk away from it.
Right.
It's hard in this economy now. It's hard for people to pass up what would be a deal. But a deal sometimes is really expensive down the road.
But that's something Consumer Reports has been saying for decades. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. So if you've got this relatively new, low mileage used car with all this new components inside and it's a really low price, the advice is you better think twice about that, right?
Yeah, and luckily consumers have some ways of some protection. There is Carfax. There are all kinds of ways to get to know the entire history of the car. So that's a good thing.
Yep. I mean, we have a lot of empathy for those folks in Florida that dealt with this hurricane, who lost their homes, whose cars were potentially damaged or totaled or compromised. Our hearts go out for you, and we hope that you don't go through anything like this again. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode, which is produced by super producer Dave Abrams, of course, and edited by Anatoly the Great. As always, check the show notes for more information on the vehicles and topics that we discussed. And just a reminder, keep your questions coming to talkingcars@icloud.com. We'll see you again next week.